Hey, this is Matt once again. Welcome back to another review. There's another request, paid request, thanks to Dan. Thank you so much for that. And like I said before, for those interested in requesting pretty much any type of commentary, review, re-review, news, ranking, reaction, randomness, out of the blueness, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box. Now this is for a film called Love and a 45 from 1994, which I believe I've seen before. I remember liking, and I still like it. The film, this is a time when Reservoir Dogs had come out. This is around the time of Natural Born Killers, True Romance. This film was definitely influenced by all that. It's like a little bit of Natural Born Killers, a little bit of True Romance. I would say maybe more True Romance than Natural Born, because it's not as pretentious as Natural Born Killers, and it has a little bit of that sense of humor that you see more in True Romance. This is definitely inspired by the films of that era. And the director, I could not find much that he did afterward. Now, the movie stars this guy named Bellows. He was in films like The Shawshank Redemption. Renée Zellweger. She was in the Bridget Jones Diaries. She was in Jerry Maguire. I believe that was her in Jerry Maguire. It's been forever since I've seen that film. Texas Chainsaw Massacre 4. Jeffrey Combs from Reanimator and Fortress and The Frighteners. He's in the film. An actor named Rory Cochrane. Good actor. I remember him from this TV show called CSI Miami. Peter Fonda makes an appearance as Renée Zellweger's dad. A father who's done his share of drugs and he has to talk with a microphone to his throat, like an electronic type of voice because of that. And pretty much you have Bellows as a guy that robs people. But when he robs people, and the beginning of the film, I thought this way the first time I saw it. I thought, okay, this film seems like it'll be my cup of tea, because I was really intrigued by the opening and had fun with it. Because he robs this place, and there's this 14-year-old or so kid working there, and he's got the gun out, and he's going, so, you think you're fast enough? How about you give it a try? And then, one thing at least you find out it's not loaded. So he gets the money, gives some to the kid, and the kid's like, why are you giving me this money? Simple. You get 10% of the gross. Now, you try this gun out, huh? And then he shoots. Hey, kid. Two things you gotta remember. One, never believe what anyone says to you. And two, never rob a store with a loaded gun. And pretty much realizes that he's been tricked, and the guy, he doesn't go in with a loaded gun. He's a decent guy at the end of the day, the Bellows character. He doesn't want to murder people, doesn't want to hurt people. He's not doing the right thing, robbing people, but it is that and the sense of humor that's involved in that scene. I'm okay, it'll be a fun movie. Now, there are times it gets a little bit dark and almost unsure if it's fitting the tone of the rest of the movie, because of at times it has kind of a fun sense of humor to it, and then there's like one or two times where it gets fairly dark, and I'm like, does this fit with a consistent tone? But again, I think he's trying to do those films of that era, like Tarantino, like Natural Born Killers, True, that type of stuff. I think that's what he's trying to do. So it's like, oh, okay. And Bellows is with Renée Zellweger, and the two of them work well together. I think they have nice chemistry with each other. They get along with each other fairly well. They're in love. Bellows, he owes money to the local mob, and so these two collectors want their money back. And one of them is played by Jeffrey Combs. And again, being a fan of the actor from films like Reanimator, it's a very different role. He's more of a redneck character. The character's name is Dinosaur Bob, and It's not often you see Jeffrey Combs playing this redneck on accent on being a real son bitch. But it showed that the guy had range. I mean, yeah, Jeffrey usually just did horror films, but he did have a lot of good range as an actor. Like, you look at The Frighteners, you look at Reanimator, Herbert West, you looked at this character, three fairly different, unique characters and performances. He's a guy that wished would have gotten bigger movies, bigger roles in bigger movies. But yeah, sadly, that's sometimes how it goes. So one day, Bellows meets up with a prison buddy, played by Rory Cochrane. And Rory Cochrane's like, listen, I need some money. Let's go rob this place. And Deal's like, I don't know about that. Oh, come on, man, do me this favor. So they do it, but then Rory Cochrane, he's not the same as Deal. His screws are a lot looser. Things go bad. And at times there's some decent bits of direction work. For example, when things go bad, which I won't give away, the way the camera's like pushing to Rory's face when he realizes the shit has definitely hit the fan. There are times where our two leads, Gil and Renee, they're on the road, and like Natural Born Killers, they're driving, and then you have this sort of screen in the back where it's showing other footage or other like psychedelic stuff. To a point, did they just completely rip that off of Natural Born Killers? It's almost as if someone saw Natural Born Killers and said, fuck that shit, I'm going to do my own version. Again, I never met the director, I don't know for certain. But sometimes that's what it feels like. And I will say, I don't mind Natural Born Killers, but this does feel like a less pretentious version of Natural Born Killers. And the couple's on the run, and even though they're not trying to hurt anybody, they're just sadly being forced in this situation. And there's a point they gotta deal with some cops, and they have to use self-defense. And then they're being chased by the two collectors, one of them Jeffrey Combs, and by the prison buddy Rory Cochrane. And even Rory Cochrane and Jeffrey Combs of them meet up with each other, and then they have a bit of friction. I mean, there's a point where Jeffrey gets this tattoo needle, like, digging around Rory Cochrane's head, talking shit to him, trying to get information out of him. And I don't want to give too much away for those who haven't seen the film. The actors did their job well. The soundtrack is pretty decent. It fit the mold of the movie, the tone of the film. You know, the music and the score wasn't too out of place. There were some lines of dialogue I didn't mind. You know, if you're gonna die, die good. But like I said, there's a couple little unsure about this or that. One is they, for some reason, put this narration in from the lead. And it's not needed. His narration is not needed. To deal Bellows, I don't know if they told him to sound boring and monotone, or that's just how he came off of. You remember Blade Runner when they did the original theatrical cut, and they made Harrison Ford do that narration that sounded boring as hell? That's what this reminded me of. Where he's saying stuff, it's monotone, it's unneeded, and it's saying stuff we already know. And that we can already gather. Like, we already know what's going on. We already know what's happening. This is not needed. Like, you could completely cut this out, and I would think it'd be a better film. Or if you don't do narration, have a little bit of life and zest. Zestfully clean with it. And like I said, sometimes there's violence that happens, but there's kind of a... think of Pulp Fiction. Pulp Fiction's violent, but there's kind of this fun, humorous aura of Pulp Fiction, even though that's also a movie where a guy gets accidentally gets his head blown off. Oh, I shot Marvin in the face. You did what? You know, that kind of humorous tone despite the violent stuff. That's what this was kind of going for too. But there's one or two scenes that again I'm like, spoiler alert. Spoilers. There's a scene with Rory Cochrane and others. They find Renée Zellweger's parents. Renée and Dill have gone off. They had a nice meal with them. They'd gone off to live happily ever after. Get to Mexico, wherever they need to go. Like I said, Peter Fonda, he has that microphone to his neck. And pretty much the parents get beaten up, and kind of tortured, and then killed. I thought, this is a bit dark for this movie. I don't really know if that scene really needed to happen. Just something about that scene sticks out in a bad way to me more than the others. I don't want to say it becomes a different film, but it's just like, I don't know if this really fits with the rest of the gist, the rest of the feel of the flick. Now, if you're one of those that they get beaten up, but then Peter Fonda gets a gun and I may have this, but I'll kick your ass, and steers him off, that'd be one thing. But that's not the case here, and it's just okay. Imagine Pulp Fiction. If there was a random scene where Uma Thurman, they went to her, I don't know, her friends, best friends, or her parents, and either Ving Rhames or someone else comes in and beats the shit out of them and kills them. And you'd be like, just something about it didn't fit with me. That's just me, though. So that, and the narration being fairly boring. There's nitpicks here and there that I have. But overall, like I said, the actors do their jobs well. The two leads had chemistry. If you ever wanted to see a Natural Born Killers... But even that's not true, because the two leads are not killers. That's what I mean. It's a little bit more like True Romance. I don't know why I keep thinking Natural Born Killers, but it has a little more of a True Romance flavor. Now, yes, True Romance is better than this film, because of the writing is a bit smoother, the direction. You got Tony Scott. I mean, even by that time, he had done Beverly Hills Cop 2, Top Gun. He's a bit more established to get some really good looking shots and cinematography. And the cast in that film, I mean, not just Richard Slater, but Dennis Hopper and Christopher Walken and Brad Pitt, and crazy cast in that. But if you like that era of filmmaking, if you like movies that are trying to do a little bit of that Tarantino type of flavor, if you watch the trailer and it interests you, it's worth a watch. It's worth a watch. Again, I didn't want to give everything away, but like I said, it has some good lines, some nice pieces of sense of humor. It didn't feel boring. The music fit the flick. Yeah, a little bit of Johnny Cash among other pieces of music in the flick. Like I said, always fun to see Jeffrey Combs stretch his acting ability a bit. Overall, not a bad film at all. I did like it. It's not one of my favorites, but I liked the film, especially for a movie that is fairly under the radar. Like, you don't find many people talking about this movie, or even knowing it exists. So I don't know if it has a Blu-ray or a DVD. I would assume it has a DVD. I don't know if it has a Blu-ray. But, yeah, if the trailer or whatever interests you, feel free to check it out. And hey, like I'll say again, if you're going to die, die good. So thanks for watching. We'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.